Well, we're almost here at the Christmas season. It's Friday before Christmas, December 21st. And I just want to give you a quick update because I got to tell you, the tank is overgrown in what I love. It's a beautiful forest of colors and shapes. And that Madagascar lace plant is continuing to grow and just boggle the mind. And so here's that corner tank that so often we're showing. And you see two of the rainbow sharks right in the center there playing around. And I did move some plants around the other day, but contrary to Bruce's suggestions, I really have a problem with trimming and throwing away plants. I cannot do it, and just love the way this tank is doing so well. And so you have off in the right hand side there, first of all, some trimmings of red kabamba are down in the darkened area. I know that needs more light, so I've got to do something with that. But it came from the red kabamba that you see up here. And I'm curious to see what happens to the root pieces that I've trimmed off of there. And so this forest on the right is that kabamba, green kabamba, red kabamba that has been doing so well, and I've pieced it off into other tanks. But I need more tanks. Yeah, right. My wife is very tolerant about what I have here, and I never want to push that. And so there's that Madagascar lace plant. And the leaves are beyond touching the surface if they were straight up. And you can get some sense of what that's all about right there in the center. It doesn't really show the plant the way I'd like to, but I don't have any room. And that corkscrew vallisneria that I love so much, and everybody comments on, you can see the root systems down into the gravel. These are all plants that have propagated themselves. And you have some crypt plants over here. Continue to just grow out more leaves, and hidden really is that red plant that I always like to talk about, just to the left underneath the Madagascar lace plant. And then you have, of course, the banana plants still doing well there. They're planted and just thriving in the shadows there. I really do need to free this up. I know that, so don't even bother commenting on it. And then off to the left we have an Amazon sword in the very left corner that's thriving despite being lost down there in the corner. Some more of that kabamba as you move up on the left hand side. And then that plant, remember, was taken over the center of the tank and I moved it to the left. Well, it's growing out some more, and so it's really creating a forest over here. We're going to have to do something about that. And behind the Madagascar lace plant, equally big, if you look at, I'll zoom in and show you the leaves in the front are the Madagascar lace leaves. Okay, you can see the lace that you could actually see through the leaves on it. And behind that are bigger leaves that are the Amazon sword behind it. And so if I close in on that, you'll see that you cannot see through those leaves. And so that's the Amazon behind it. Both plants are doing amazingly well. Now, I got to confess, made a big mistake, okay? I've been talking about the fertilization program and the CO2 that I do every day here. It turns out I was overdosing. I hadn't read the label close enough, or I hadn't paid enough attention to the cap that used to measure the amount of CO2 you're putting in there. So I've cut it back quite a bit, and now we're dosing it correctly, which is 5 milliliters for a 50-gallon tank, as opposed to 4 times that much before. So I don't know how much of this plant growth is because I was overdosing it. Fish are doing just fine. They happen to be hiding in the plants right this minute. Usually, if I put some food out in front, you get some sense of just how overcrowded this tank is with all sorts of color. And so, just a quick update, doing so well. Now, you'll see in the bow tank on the opposite side of the room here, and so we'll swing over there in just 1 second. Here's the bow tank, and it's doing very well also, and I had to thin it out just the other day. Some of the plants were coming out of the background and I rerouted them, and so this one looks more attractive as opposed to the overgrown forest you saw in the corner tank. The water is clear as a bell. A little bit of algae on the front glass there that you may or may not be able to see, but look at the size of that Amazon sword plant right here. And it's funny, the different Amazons of course have different heights to them. This one's mid-range, and right in front of it is another one which is also I think a mid-range as opposed to low, or the one you saw in the corner tank, which is a tall one. And if you go across the front of the tank, there's all different plants sort of buried in here. And then off to the right you have what I would consider a low Amazon sword that's not growing up like the others are. But behind it you have Ambulia, you have the Kabamba, and then off to the left, in the center of this tank really, you have the Wigia, which is filled back in, and then that, oh, I can't think of the Rotella plant that I moved over here, some pieces of it, which really have filled in nicely. And then above that other Amazon sword we just saw, some very colorful Ludwigia, and some of the other plants being lost down in the lower ends here. They're getting some light, but not as much as maybe they need, and so need more real estate. Taking all the fixtures out of this tank, just about. There's still one back here, but I don't have space to move the plants out. And I've been watching some planted aquariums on YouTube, and geez, they look so nice when they're spaced out and planted so beautifully. Yet I like what I've got here. I gotta admit that. It's been interesting as I sat here just the other day. I was reflecting on the story that I'll share with you of Ray and I. And you remember Ray passed away just about a year ago now. And he and I for 65 years raised tropical fish together. His house, my house, you know. And we would go on our fishing trips. And it's interesting how those fishing trips developed over time. And that's really the story I want to share with you. Originally, we were young people, and we had a canoe or a rowboat out on Lawrence Brook in East Brunswick, New Jersey, and we would go out, and the brook itself was miles long and was just carpeted with Kabamba type plants, so we could get any plants we wanted, and we often did bring those home to our tanks, and over time we did everything there. And as time grew up, we settled down and got older, and our fishing trips took on a different form. And so we would go down to Ocean, this is all in New Jersey, and Tropiquarium was a place we would go to down there. Very nice setup. And then on our way back, we would stop at Joe's Crab Shack and have a nice shrimp and crab lunch together. And then we would stop at a small fish store, pet store on the way back up in that general area, and they always had a tank which had a combination of community fish, and any fish was $1, and we always would find some fish in there, and they had good tubiflex worms, for example, so that was always a stop. And then we would come home, and you saw some of the videos of us putting that stuff into his 22 tanks, or the results here in my tanks. And then he came down with cancer, and a year ago passed away. And it was funny because over the years we've gone from Lawrence Brook to where my sister actually gave us a canoe, and we would put on top of Ray's Jeep and go out to the same Lawrence Brook. And then that got me too much for our knees and our backs, and so the canoe didn't go out in the water anymore, and it became totally just these car trips that I just described. And it was interesting because when he passed away, just about the same time, Tropiquarium closed. And there's a real neat video on YouTube about abandoned aquarium stores. And there is a video there. It's very sad to watch because they take you through the abandoned store, which was a big store, always had great varieties, and now it was just a ghost place. And then up the road, like I said, we go to Joe's Crab Shack. And Joe's Crab Shack closed down. And about the same time, I said to Ray, I said, well, I guess we didn't get many business, so they went out of business. Every time we went there at lunchtime, we were just one of maybe 2 or 3 tables that were being used. So they didn't have a lot of business. They eventually closed down. And then that small pet shop that we always stopped in that area, maybe it was Long Branch, not Long Branch, but anyway, someplace along that corridor, that closed and moved up to North Jersey someplace to one of their other stores. And so as time passes over, things changed. From going out in the canoe on the big waters to big Tropiquarium. We still went to some other tropical fish stores, but it was interesting that the 3 main ones that were on our regular routine all closed at about the same time as Ray passed and those fishing trips stopped. We've recovered some of that with Bruce going out with me, and we've revisited some of those stores, but of course we can't go to Joe's Crab Shack. We can't go to Tropiquarium. And back in the corner here, I don't know if you see him, there's that white male betta, and just went by in the background. I'm hoping he'd come out and show off, but I don't think he's going to do that. My wife says she interacts with him. She looks at him and he flares up at her, and she turns away and he just sits back down, and then she turns and looks at him again and he flares back up at her. So she gets more action out of him than I do. He's pretty much hidden right now. But anyway, that's where we are. This tank, I think, is a lot prettier right now, the way it's laid out. And it's interesting going back on these videos over time and seeing how different these tanks look from one to another. And I don't know if I can show you that better or not. Keep passing by this little area between the plants back there, way back past that angelfish. Let's see if he comes back. He's been going back and forth as I've been talking. And we'll just keep an eye out there for a second to see what happens. We've got one of the plecos down here doing his thing. And we have the 2 albino plecos in here, the bristle nose, that are still really tiny. They're not growing out. They're supposed to stay fairly small, but these are tiny. And I'm pleasantly surprised to see them once in a while. Well, sure enough, that betta's not going to... Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. He just goes by. He's got that window there, and if you're not looking when he goes by, there he is again. Oh yeah, come on. Oh, come on. Give us a show. Let's see if we can catch him one more time. There he is. No, he's there, but not giving you a good view of what a beautiful fish. There he is. Just above that one piece of structure that's still on this tank. Anyway, let me go in and show you just briefly the office tank, and that's overgrown too, but I did solve a problem in the office tank. Here comes the betta now. Ready? Came over just by that window and then turned around, went back. He's coming back again. Come on, come on, up, up, up. Oh no, the pleco's going back there instead. Oh well. He's off to the left-hand side now, but you're not going to see him here. Anyway, this, as I say, is the bow tank. Both these tanks here in our living room, really adding some really lively and nice decor to our condominium and small living room. Okay, we're in the office tank, and it has the same overgrown effect that I like. Not so much here, but we've got lots of babies in here. This is a live bearer tank mainly, and between the platies and the guppies, we've got a lot of babies in here, so that overgrowth is really protecting them nicely. What is hard for you to see is in the center of this tank, this hexagonal 30-gallon tank, which is 22 inches high, there is an Amazon sword plant with about 20 leaves which reach to the surface of the water. It's doing beautifully behind that water wisteria, which is right dead center, and some of that hornworth, is it? That furry plant right in the beginning there. Anyway, I had a problem here, maybe I've talked about it in prior videos, where the water was getting cloudy, and I used that chemical which cleared it up within an hour. But recently I did test this water, and the pH was up around 7.8 or higher based on the coloration, and I used some pH 7.0, and 2 days later tested it and it was about 7.0. And so the fish are doing better now. The water is clearer than it was, although it's a little bit cloudy today, but yesterday it was clear as a bell. And I can't zoom in for some reason or other without losing some of the focus for you to see some of these babies. There's one right dead center that maybe you can see, and some are growing into a little bit bigger fish now. There he is. Let's see what happens if I get in too close. I've got the camera a good distance away, so maybe it'll stay. But you can see the parent fish here, especially this female. Nice, a couple of very colorful female guppies. I love guppies with their colorful tail. You see that red tail there, and it's a golden type guppy, and two males are trying to pay attention to it. They're obviously from the same source. But this tank's doing well, and I just wanted to summarize everything going on and share that story of our history, and also just tell you, hey, it's December 21st and it's 64 degrees outside here in New Jersey. Talked to a friend down in Florida, he said it's not that warm down there. Anyway, till we meet again and share our tanks, thank you for your comments. A lot of good friends out there from all over the world, and I really appreciate your interest and sharing your own tanks and what's going on in your world, where your fish stores are, etc., etc. So, till next time, enjoy the holidays.